Is going on, Rotogrinders? Dean here. It's Dean 7904 if you want to get all technical on me in the DFS streets. It's 5:30 on the East Coast, 2:30 West Coast, 4:30 Tennessee time. So, of course, that means it's time for the flagship show here at Rotogrinders. It's called Grinderslive. Joining me today, you know him from such things as the Morning Grind and NASCAR. It's Stevie TPFL. Stevie, how are things in your world? Do we have a case of the Mondays? We in a good mood or what?
I'm in a good mood, man. I got some sleep. I had like 3 hours of sleep over the weekend. 2 NASCAR races was not fun. So got like a nice little night of sleep, and I'm not grumpy anymore. So you get the ungrumpy Stevie. Like, I felt bad for Will last night because like I was so tired. I wasn't grumpy to him, but I was really tired. So I'm refreshed.
You're trying to speed up as fast as possible.
Yeah, like it was like when I didn't like something, there was like no going into the stats. It's like, nope, moving on.
You got a wife, 2 kids. That has significantly decreased your sleep time, I imagine. If there's like a chart, and we're going to chart the amount of sleep you've had in the last so many years, I assume it's dipped down because of that. Is that how that works? I don't have a child or wife.
I think it's gone up since COVID started. Like, I changed my whole schedule with COVID, so like I've actually been sleeping more.
Oh, well, there you go. With 3 hours, that's 3 hours in total, you said?
Yeah, it was a long weekend, man.
Oh man, how did the NASCAR streaks work out for you? Is that a bad question? They can be bad.
I mean, it could have went a lot better.
Well, right. Something goofy happened like the last lap, right? Wasn't there something?
Yeah, a lot of people ran out of gas in the last lap. It was like a $7,800 swing for me, so it could have went a lot better.
Can't they make the tank just like a incrementally, just a little? It's like they intentionally want them to run out of gas at mile 499 or whatever it is. We were talking about the golf pre-show. Did you care about soccer? Soccer was amazing today. There's actually a game going on, to my knowledge, at least the last I saw was 3-3 in extra time. Soccer was fabulous. Did you care for the football?
No, I mean, no, I don't.
Fair enough.
The disc golf tournament was awesome this weekend. Like, we could talk about that. It was fantastic.
Did you partake, or you would watch it? Like,
watch it. It was the World Championships for this past week. They started on Tuesday and ended on Saturday, and it came down to the last hole for women and men. And like the men, dude threw like an impossible 250-foot shot, backhand, Anheuser, back, like just a shot you don't throw, and he like made it, and like it was the craziest thing I've ever seen. So, yeah, man, it was awesome. I've retweeted it like 5 times.
Is that a walk-off or a throw-off? What do they call that?
Well, like he was a stroke behind. So he got a 3, and the guy that was winning the tournament had already laid up because like he's like, nobody's making this shot. Nobody's making this shot. And he made it. So, I mean, disc golf was fun this weekend.
Do they have, I feel like this happened once. Do they have DFS disc golf? I feel like that was once a thing. Is that still a thing?
They have on Prize Picks, they have disc golf. So if you're in the NASCAR chat on Discord, I give out disc golf picks for Prize Picks all the time. So sign up to the NASCAR package. Get signed up for Prize Pick using the Rotogrinders links, and then you can make some money. Like I made like $600-700 this weekend on disc golf. Wow.
I mean, how do you even like research? I mean, we'll talk about baseball in a second. It's a 9-game slate. It's not an 8-game slate. We got plenty of time. Don't worry about it. What up, chat? Not sure if they're getting antsy just yet. Please like, subscribe, turn on notifications, fire off your questions. Myself and Stevie will answer all your questions regarding the slate or disc golf or NASCAR or I watched some soccer today. I'm no expert, but a lot of fun in the soccer games as well going down. And I think the other one's still not finished just yet, but it was 3-3 last I saw in extra time. We also mentioned you were talking about getting a Discord. That's one of the things we don't talk about enough. Of course, there's a Discord channel for your NASCAR premium package, but also for the RG stuff as well. Talk to a lot of other sharp people. You could ping all the RG experts and everybody. We're happy to have a banter throughout the day, and just a lot of smart members bouncing ideas off each other throughout the day as well. Separated by sport as well. There are some free channels, but those aren't going to be as active. The premium channels is where you want to be. How do you get that? You get $10 off the first month. Just one sport. If you just want baseball, you just want basketball. I guess that would be silly. Just want basketball right now. We're down to just 4 teams. It's basically the tail end. Football around the corner. You get soccer. You get golf. Get everything with the exception of NASCAR. You can do it either way. You can get $10 off just one sport, or $10 off all the sports. Again, with the exception of NASCAR. Our fabulous multitasking producer Devin D-Train. He's going to go ahead and drop those links for you guys there in chat. So Stevie, let's break down the slate. We did lose Chicago and Minnesota, and I wish that didn't happen. I'm a little annoyed by that, because I was taking he's not going to sneaking it, but anybody. But I was taking Peralta was my main guy, and I was hoping some ownership would shuffle to Giolito, especially on FanDuel, where they're basically the same price. And I thought Giolito was fine, but I think Peralta is the clear absolute best pitcher of the slate, and that ownership's going to condense even more. And this slate is very, very clearly a distinction of the haves and the have-nots. Like there's two good DFS pitchers, a couple good real-life pitchers, and then a bunch of stinkers. And then we have, I think 5 offenses today, last I checked, that have a total of at least 5 or 5 or more. It's just like it's obvious. It's baseball. Goofy things are going to happen. But like before the game starts, Stevie, you tell me, it's obvious what the good plays are. And I put good in air quotes because something weird's going to happen that you really can't see coming. But the pitchers are quote-unquote obvious, and the stacks are quote-unquote obvious. At least that's kind of where I'm at. What say you? How do you feel overall, your main picture, your screenshot as far as the slate before we get going?
I mean, there's a couple pitchers that were going to potentially be lower owned that set up like they were in really good spots. But now, you take off a couple pitchers on the slate, ownership, like everybody's playing Peralta. Ben May's the umpire. It's a good umpire. Everybody's playing Peralta. Big strikeout rate. No Rizzo. I don't know if you said that on the show or before.
We were talking pre-show about it, yeah.
Yeah. So, no Rizzo. We'll get into it in a second, but I think this is a day that you have to get different with your bats, because I think pitching is pretty straightforward on who you want to take. I think bats is where you're looking to be different on this slate. And, I think that when we start looking at the slate, you got Houston, you got the Yankees, you got the Red Sox, Cleveland's in a good spot, St. Louis is in a good spot. I mean, there's just so many good spots on the slate that I feel like you're just going to have to get different. Maybe play a chalkier main stack and use like a really low-owned secondary stack. That's what I talked about doing an expert survey today. That's kind of what I'm looking at right now. So, that's what I was looking at before we started the show. And then I realized some of my guys were out, so I got to kind of mess around with my lineups a little bit.
You mainly run 3 lineups? Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm building one today. Just because, I say this all the time. I do run 1 to 3, but if there's something that I'm just on, I'll usually just play 1 and just attack that spot. So, that's kind of what I'm looking at today.
Yeah, so team totals, talk pitchers in a second, but Washington creeping up on 5. I think that's a little bit low, to be honest. I think Washington scores at least 5 runs today against Jared Eichhoff. Weather is really, really good. 90 degrees in Washington tonight. Winds blowing out as well, too. Really, really solid hitting weather there in Washington. Good hitting weather for Yankee Stadium as well. It's 90 degrees there. A couple other parks, Boston, Fenway, high 80s, 10 miles per hour blowing out as well, too. And, the pitchers aren't particularly great either. And, again, it seems pretty clear cut as far, and, Houston is a 6 total against Tom Eshelman. And, I don't understand what Baltimore's doing. Why Matt Harvey's never going to be good again. It's just not happening. Why are they rolling these guys out there? Eshelman throws 86, 87, basically. He got his face punched in last week. He's going to get his face punched in most likely again tonight by Houston. Different situation. It's in Houston, more appealing ballpark to pitch in, but still super vulnerable as well. As far as the arms, you did mention Peralta, biggest K rate on this slate, and he's facing the team that has struck out the most active roster against righties all season long. That's the Cubs. The Cubs are without their one guy in the lineup that doesn't really strike out. That's actually a good hitter. Rizzo left last night's game with a back. He's not in there. Now, Sogard's in there, which is kind of sort of somewhat annoying, but he's actually been striking out more this season, 20.4%, traditionally more of a contact hitter than that. And also, he doesn't walk, 4.9%. Again, not a huge sample, 100 at bats there for him. There is some power, obviously. The Cubs can hit homers, Peterson and Happ and Baez and Bryant, sure. But, yeah, it's just a Chicago lineup that's been cold, if you're into that kind of thing as well, too. I was looking at, they've had very few games like where they've actually scored many runs in the last 2 weeks or so. Peralta just seems like the clear-cut best play. A bit of a pitcher's duel. Like the win equity is not great because Milwaukee's offense stinks, and I think Hendricks is pretty good too, and we'll talk about him in a second. Of course, he doesn't bring the Ks to the table that Peralta does, but just from yielding runs, Hendricks has been in a groove of late, and this Milwaukee lineup is obviously pretty putrid as well. Talk about Bauer. Bauer, I think, is the next guy you have to talk about as far as like DFS pitchers and this whole spin rate conversation we can have, I suppose. But he's been racking up the Ks. So he'll give up some homers as well, too. And San Francisco has been – is it safe to say San Fran's been the biggest overachiever this season? Like, what has impressed more than from the start? I think they're the first team to get 50 wins this year. I don't know. I still don't know how they're doing it. Good for them. And I'm not totally buying in on this roster. They've had some injuries as well, too. But what are your thoughts as far as Bauer versus this Giants lineup? It's not officially out just yet, but we kind of know what we're getting.
Dean, you don't listen to the morning grind, do you? I've been on the Giants all season. I think they're really good. Like, they're really good. I didn't expect Posey to be this good, okay?
Yeah.
Nobody expected Posey to be this good. But, I mean, this lineup, the bottom of the order is bad. The bottom of the order outside of maybe, like, 3 teams in baseball is bad. You're not going to have a solid 8 or 9 throughout any lineup. But, I mean, Bauer is really good. And there's nothing saying that, like, Bauer, his spin rate's down a little bit. He's been very vocal about not getting as much grip on baseballs. Him and Glasnow are, like, the leaders for, like, speaking out on this issue. But, I mean, I think this is a really tough matchup. Looking at, like, projected ownership and seeing Bauer as the highest projected guy, I still think it's going to be Peralta as the highest owned guy on the slate. But if Bauer is really going to be that popular, then I'm fading him already, but it's such an easy fade if he's going to be that popular. He struggled a lot more with lefties this season. They're going to throw probably 5 lefties at him tonight. And I mean, some of these guys aren't great. Duggar, not great, but I mean, Dickerson's been good. Crawford's been fantastic. Yaz is really good. Wade is decent. Like, he gets on base. He doesn't strike out. Like, this whole team is patient. So if Bauer's just off a little bit on command, then I think it's a really tough spot for him. So if he was going to be 30% owned, and, I don't think that's going to be the case, then I think that's when you could have looked at playing Trevor Bauer. But the fact that he's going to be the top 2 highest owned pitchers on the slate, that's where it's really tough for me to play Trevor Bauer against an offense that doesn't strike out a lot, walks a lot, and just has overall good hitters, throughout the lineup.
He did face him once this year and struck about 11 times for what it's worth. He put up a big score against him, 36 fantasy points, dominated him. And he does have the biggest leash as far as, like, if he's in a groove, they will let him go 7 or 8 innings. They'll let him throw 115 pitches. And, like, basically nobody else in the slate, I don't want to say nobody, but basically nobody else in the slate can do that. I suppose Greinke could in theory, and Hendricks every once in a while, like, he has those CGSOs, he just strikes out 4 or 5 guys and has those 5-pitch innings sometimes. But, I mean, look, and it's just 10-9 on DK. On FanDuel, I think it's clearly Peralta over Bauer, but I think the ownership's going to reflect that as well. And that's why I think all the Giolitos are going to go right to Peralta, and Peralta's just going to be crazy owned. And, that's not something that I'm necessarily going to, I got to run away from it now, but I wish he's not going to be as popular as I think he's going to be. And obviously our ownership team, I don't think fully adjusted to see what's going to, where all that ownership goes from Chicago and Minnesota, but certainly they're scrambling on that. Got to an hour and 20 minutes still up until the first pitch tonight. So I'm trying to get Bauer and Peralta DK double barrel. That's where my brain goes, and I think there's a drop off after those 2. And then you have a couple good real life pitchers that aren't great in fantasy. The aforementioned Hendricks, and then Greinke. Greinke feels like those 4 win points are on layaway against Baltimore. He's another guy who theoretically he can throw a Maddox. He can go 9 innings and not in less than 99 pitches and strike out 5 or 6. And of course, this Baltimore lineup is vulnerable to that as well. But he's got to eat those innings because he's probably not going to strike out more than 7. Talk to you about Greinke and Hendricks, because the problem is, as we dig into the pitchers, it falls off really fast, and there's just not a lot. we're going to be talking about Eli Morgan as a way to kind of open up salary, and that's not comfortable.
I'll talk about Greinke first because Hendrick is my favorite pitcher on the slate, and we'll get there in a second. Greinke's in a great spot. I mean, when you look at this lineup, Baltimore, they have some power bats. Don't get me wrong. Mancini, Mountcastle. I guess do we consider Mullins? Like, he has a 225 ISO on the season against random pitching. I don't really consider him like a power bat, but I mean, his ISO definitely reflects being a guy that has some power. So, but you look at the bottom of this order, there's just so many guys with WOBAs under 300, so many guys with ISOs under 150. Greinke could go out and have a really solid start here. He's just 9,800. He's so expensive that it's really tough to like trust him. I think he is a really interesting, like, if you're building 20 entry max teams or if you're building like 150 entry teams, I think that's where like you're getting some exposure to Greinke because the matchup is pretty soft. Houston is going to absolutely score a ton of runs tonight. So, I mean, he's going to pitch with a lead. He can kind of attack it and be aggressive. I just think the price is a little bit high. As far as Hendricks goes, I love him here. The Brewers stink. Chichi Gonzalez pitched a really solid game against this lineup yesterday. This team is so bad. You know, they have 6 guys with strikeout rates over 26% against right-handed pitching this season. Kyle Hendricks is a good pitcher. He's someone that definitely can hit spots and get out of jams by using ground balls. So I think Kyle Hendrick goes out and throws one of his better games this season, and he's likely going to be the lowest owned over 9K on DraftKings. So I also really like that. And like I was saying with Peralta, this is a good pitcher's umpire. Ben May is a good pitcher's umpire. So Hendrick's getting a little bit, maybe if he gets a half a ball or something, he can really attack this Milwaukee lineup. So I really like Kyle Hendricks in this spot.
Yeah, he's put up an acceptable score to like a really legitimate good score in 8 straight games. And this Milwaukee team obviously is not very good. The problem is, like, he has one of those innings where he falters, he gives up like a 3-run homer or something like that. It's hard for him to recover because, you know, a lot of times, like if a Bauer goes out there or Peralta goes out there, gives up a 3-run homer in the first inning, they can make up for that and strike out 5 of the next 6 batters. And that's not really something Hendricks can do. Not really. But you're right. This Milwaukee lineup is just pretty brutal. It's pretty off. I think Yelich is playing hurt. I know I look at his batted ball stuff and he is hitting the ball hard, but it seems something's wrong with him this year. Like, he's dealing with the back and he's in and out of the lineup. And I think he's just trying to tough it out. They lost the CEO of Team Girth. Vogelbach's no longer in that lineup there for Milwaukee. You saw that play, right? I assume you saw that play where he's hopping home trying to score. Good for him, man. Get that last run in before you go on the IL. It's a rough lineup, man. Kiston Hira's back. Like, he had a homer.
But he strikes out at like a 50% clip, or like realistically, I think it's like 35% or something. But yeah, just big number. This lineup is bad. It's really
JBJ bad. Strikes out a ton. Hira strikes out a ton. There's a lot of Ks there, and like, what's going to give? And like you said, Hendricks this season, an 18% K rate. Now, he doesn't walk anybody, so he's also a guy that could stick around, you know, theoretically for 7 innings.
And he has that pitcher's umpire. Like, you add that to having the command that Hendricks has, the ability that he doesn't walk people. I mean, and the ground balls. Like, I think he pitches really well here.
And then what's left? I mean, I see Danny Duffy here is 8.8K on DK, and that's just egregious. I saw somebody in chat asking about Duffy. You know, we take our questions later on the show, but I'll just knock this one out now. Yeah, he did go 6 innings on 5-12, but he went on the IL. He came back with, it was the IL, right? He take a little stint. Yeah, he was gone for a while. Came back and pitched 2 innings on the 23rd and 1 inning in the 25th. Tonight is the 28th. Like, even if Duffy's pitching well, I can't imagine he's going beyond like 4 and 8. Get out of here. We can't roster Duffy, right? I assume you agree.
They just gave him, like, they were being beat by Texas. I think when he pitched, somebody can quote me if I'm wrong. I think it was like 9-2, and they just gave him like his bullpen work out there on the mound. Yeah. So, like, I mean, it was a forearm injury with Duffy. I'd be shocked to see Duffy throw more than like 80 pitches here. And I think that number might be like high.
I take the under an 80. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got the bat pulled up right now and see what Cardi has them projected for. Let's see. PPC is the what does that mean? In the PPC means the average, right? Or the expected. Like, now I got to pull up the legend. Projected pitch count. Yeah, we could have figured that out, Stevie. Why couldn't
I was gonna say, Dean, why didn't you? You should have known that one, buddy.
62, by the way. 62 is the projected pitch count for Duffy.
I think that's more realistic.
Yeah, I think that seems. BPC is the baseline. Yeah, okay. So like other games, like around 90 or so, but and also they were talking about him possibly being shut down for the season, like, and then now he's back and whatever. But I don't see it. You can't throw him. Is the bottom line. Disco Stu versus the Dodgers. I mean, he's had his moments.
I think he's the only pitcher under 8K that put up 30 plus fantasy points. Does that, like, if that makes any sense? Like, if you're looking for somebody with just, he could easily put up -5. It's the Dodgers. But if you're looking for somebody that, I mean, we have him projected, I think, for 2% ownership. So if you are looking for somebody under 8K and don't want to play Eli Morgan at massive chalk, then take a shot on Desclafani. Play a couple Giants bats with Desclafani, because if Trevor Bauer is off a little bit, the Giants can score some runs on him. And you're getting max leverage. You can play Desclafani with a couple Giants and do a full-on Houston stack, and your lineup's way different. Full-on Boston stack, full-on Yankee stack. So, I mean, if you're trying to take shots on, like, these, like, big-time stacks, everybody's going to do big-time stacks Eli Morgan. Do a big-time stack.
Not to cut you off, but if you're saying that Disco is only going to be, like, 2, 3, 4%, whatever it is, why do I have to roster San Fran with them? I'm not.
You don't have to. I'm just saying if you're trying to get maximum leverage. But so don't play the Giants. But if you play Desclafani, if he's on and he's pitching well, he can get 25 plus. He's done it a couple times this season. And like nobody else in this range can. Nobody else in this range can. So I mean, that's why you're taking a shot on a guy like Desclafani. Because, like, how do you make your Yankees, Red Sox, Houston stacks different? Especially if you want to try to play two of those teams together. Well, there you go. Anthony Desclafani. Get your -5 or get your 25. I mean, when you're playing tournaments and you're trying to win a tournament, if you're playing a tournament just to cash, play cash games. Because, at the end of the day, what's the point of that? So I just think that Desclafani is a really interesting play right now. I debated Dean on going Desclafani Hendricks, but I keep, taking Peralta.
Get the Peralta. Come on.
Yeah.
Peralta's got such a bigger ceiling than Hendricks. It's like Hendricks there's nothing sexy about him. Of course, Hendricks can drop the CGSO and put up 30 or so. That's possible. But like the rest of the names, stop me if anybody. Richards, you're a Boston fan. Do you want to?
I mean, it's Kansas City, so like there's, but I mean, he's just not good. He's not a big strikeout guy. He's just not very good. Like
King for the Yankees is not good, and he's not going to pitch deep. Besides that,
right?
Manning for Detroit is actually, he got the pedigree. He's supposed to be good one day, not a finished product, and he's facing a Cleveland team. It's not great. They lost
big time prospect, just not ready yet.
Yeah, and he's not looked great his first 2 games, and you can argue he's been super lucky to put up the numbers he was able to put up, and he's also not going very deep either. Eichhoff, no. Espino is just the opener. Might go 2 innings there against the Mets. Wade LeBlanc, I cannot imagine. I know Arizona's terrible, but I can't.
They don't strike out against left-handed pitching.
And also LeBlanc, he's another guy that's not stretched out. He's basically pitched out of the pen all year long, so he's only going to go, I imagine, 4 innings at best or something like that. Eshelman is going to. We talked about him getting his face punched in. You remember Jake Faria? Living in Tampa Bay, you have to remember him, right?
Yeah, I mean,
he used to be fun.
But they're moving him to like a starter role. Somebody got hurt. I can't remember who it was, but they're moving him to like a starter role. I just don't expect him to throw like, I think he's maxed out like 40-50 tonight. If he was like fully stretched out at 5,500, I would be taking a shot on him here.
Yeah, that's another guy that's probably not going to go very deep. But it's just, that's what leaves us with chalk Eli Morgan, who's like not good. He got destroyed by Toronto. The Cubbies.
He's not good. He's really not good.
But he's facing Detroit, who's also not good.
Yeah, I would rather play the Detroit Bats. I would rather play the Detroit Bats.
Do we have Morgan chalky? Is that you were talking about? Because he's like the guy by default.
He's going to be 35 to 40% owned.
That's brutal, man. I can't imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I just think he's going to be popular. Like, so his biggest issue in AAA too was like walks, and like he hasn't walked anybody yet. So I feel like, I mean, there's just so much negative regression coming to this guy. He has like a 1.68 whip and he's not walking anybody. Just wait till he starts walking people. He's a massive fly ball guy. I mean, if he can have some things go his way, but overall, I don't think this is the spot. And I get why people are playing him.
Yeah.
In 2 years, I would be 75 to 80% on Eli Morgan here because he is good. He has talent. He has, like, everything I've read on him is he has a way above average changeup. And, like, you can do a lot of things with a way above average changeups in the majors. But this is a guy that, like, he doesn't have an electric fastball. He needs to work on his slider. He has that changeup. But, I mean, overall, he's just not ready for the bigs. And when you're looking at, like, a guy that has a 20% K rate in AAA, he's not ready for the bigs. And they're just out of options, so they had to call him up early.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the walks like a 3.7%, and that's really, really good. And you could, and this is small sample stuff, so I hate to freak out over it, but you could argue he's been unlucky. That 10 ERA, his left on base percentage is only 48%. That's super unlucky. Obviously, again, small samples. 406 BABIP is unlucky. Somewhere in the fly ball is 23.5% unlucky. But I'm not excited, and I mean, I'm probably going to have him on at least one team, just going to open things up, and I'm making 8 tonight on DK. But ideally, I'm just going double barrel with the two best pitchers, and maybe I'll work in some Hendricks or some Greinke if I have to. But Disco, I'm okay with, but that's it. Like I don't like anything down there, And I don't remember Anthony K was great, but you're not going to get Anthony K every single night at 4K. You're not going to find those guys. You can't really create those guys, and I don't think that guy exists in the slate. Even if we said even if Leblanc's pitching well, he's not going deep, as far as I can tell. Maybe Manning gives you 5 good innings. I suppose that's possible. Eichhoff, the Washington scenario, I want no part of. Eshelman, face punched in. Yeah.
Well, the thing about Manning is there's not a lot of strikeouts in the top of that order. Hernandez, Rosario, Ramirez, the other Rosario, even like Bradley has, like, he's not a big strikeout guy. So I feel like there's just not a ton of strikeouts in that lineup for Manning. That's why, like, I keep reverting back to just full on taking a shot on Descalfani. If you're going to go cheap, just take a shot on the guy that can go 30 plus. That's been pitching really well.
He's actually, you know, he's got the talent. He has the ability.
Yeah.
I like that.
He's 8-2 on the season. Like, there's talent there, and like the Giants are rolling too. So, I mean, I don't know. That's why I just was like, if I'm going to go down and I'm going to go down to Eli Morgan, I'll just go up a little bit to like Descalfani.
More small sample stuff. Manning, again, I don't like to freak out over this thing, but it's 10 innings pitched so far, 8.9% K rate, and the swinging strike rate at 5.7%. And Cleveland's a contact heavy team. So, I mean, you're hoping for a survival and the BABIP gods to be on your side, which I suppose is possible. Because the Cleveland team's not great. They'll make contact, but they're not great, right? Give me a summary as far as pitching. It falls off a cliff really quickly, obviously.
Peralta, Hendricks, Bauer, Greinke, Descalfani. If you want to roll the dice on Eli Morgan or Matt Manning, I mean, you can. I don't love it, but I get why people are playing him.
All right. Going to go around the horn, hit a couple plays we like at each position. We're going to be turning the show over to the chat shortly enough. Chat, do like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Do appreciate that. Take you guys up to 20 after. Then we yield to crunch time for premium members. Tonight, Dave Potts. Cheese is good. And I believe Will, Chief Justice, who was on the podcast with you this morning. He'll be on crunch time tonight, as well as Roth, Kevin Roth, Chief Meteorologist. If anything's going on as far as the weather, he will let you guys know what's going down. We talked about it earlier as far as some positive weather for some hitting spots. Yankee Stadium being one of them, Washington being one of them, Fenway Park being one of them. It feels like, despite the fact that it's a short slate, that hitters, I mean, it feels like it's going to be a high-scoring night. Do you have that same feeling? Maybe that's just me. I don't know. I
think it's going to be a high-scoring night. When we have like so few pitching options, like especially in that bottom range, you have to almost assume that it's going to be a high hitting or high scoring night. So I'm with you on that. I think it's going to be a high scoring night.
All right, start loading up some questions there for us, chat. Favorite catcher tonight, or not necessarily favorite, but who are the ones you're most likely to play? Because again, we do live in the world of a salary cap. Obviously, if you have the funds, you're probably looking at either Gary Sanchez against Dylan Bundy or Sal Perez versus Garrett Richards facing that monster. I prefer Perez over I'm not going to argue if you prefer Sanchez, or if you want to stack it up, if you like the Yankees, so be it. But If you're spending up, who do you prefer amongst those two? And then give me your favorite cheap if you can't get there.
If I'm paying up at catcher, I think it's Salvador Perez. Richards is not great. Bundy's not great either. But Perez is going to be lower owned than Sanchez. So I always like, if I like two catchers kind of the same, if I'm going to pay up, which is never happening because I don't ever pay up a catcher. That's kind of what I like. Just look at ownership and just play the catcher that's going to be lower owned, because catcher is such a volatile position. I like Christian Vasquez, 3,900 against Duffy. He makes a lot of sense, especially if you like the Red Sox. I think that is a good spot to look. But I mean, Patrick, what is it, Mazeika?
I'm not sure who that is.
He's the catcher for the Mets. He's batting 8th. He's 2K. He's stone minimum. I don't want to play Jose Lobaton against Peralta. So, like, if I'm looking at a punt catcher today, I'm looking at Mazeika. I think Mazeika. I'm probably wrong.
This is my very first time seeing this guy's name. I wouldn't be surprised if this was his major league debut, or maybe
he's been playing.
How am I not aware of this guy?
I mean, you gotta know the beard. He has a nice going beard, and I mean, yeah. I think he even has a home run on the season. He's 2K and has a home run on the season. That's even more of a positive. But I mean, he projects pretty well. Especially if you're looking at, like, just for the price. Like, he's a guy that can get you, 5 to 10 points. I think that's fine. If he hits a home run, you're really happy. Max Stassi is another guy that's kind of cheap. But my problem with taking LA bats is, like, you're losing that 7th, 8th, and 9th if the game is close against that Yankees bullpen.
Yeah, Stassi, one-time cleanup hitter, now down to the 5-hole there for the Angels. Man, they really miss Trout. Oh, Fletcher's leading off. He's an interesting cheapie, I suppose. 2.5K on DK. Of course, Otani is the prize in that Angels lineup. We'll talk about him soon enough. Hey, first base, you could play Otani there on DraftKings. I think he's too cheap, Stevie. 5K is too cheap for Otani in my estimation. He's top 3 in basically any single category you think is important. He even has 11 or 12 stolen bases just for fun. But what is he? He's top 3, and I did make a list of this earlier today, actually, because I was writing in the expert survey. I'm trying to pull it up on the fly. Yeah, home runs, OPS, ISO, WRC plus, hard hit percentage, barrel percentage, WOBA. He's at least top 3 in every one of those categories. He's awesome. That home run he hit yesterday, like on the inside part of the plate, he hit an opposite field, like defied science. Just so much fun to watch him. And he's in Yankee Stadium. He's probably only going to face King twice because King's not going to stay very deep. But like you said, that bullpen can be good, especially if they're on the wrong end of the score. But I still think 5K is too cheap on DK, and he's probably one of my main pieces. And I don't know if that's sneaking up on anybody else. And less likely to have him on FanDuel, just kind of the way the build goes, kind of messing around. First base, you can give your thoughts on Otani and everybody else.
Yeah, I think Otani's great, especially if you're playing cash games. I think he's kind of the guy you're looking at. And even if you want to use him as like an outfielder, I think Otani is definitely someone you're trying to get into the lineup. For tournaments, I like Pete Alonso. I don't like everybody likes the Mets today, but nobody's playing Pete Alonso because he's so expensive. So I think this is a great spot for the Mets. And I don't care if it's a righty-righty matchup. Pete Alonso you're playing him for the power upside. So it doesn't really matter if it's lefty or righty. So I like Pete Alonso. If you want to save some money, we have some options today. Christian Walker against LeBlanc is interesting. He's 3.1K. He has some power. Bobby Dahlbeck batting 7th, not the ideal spot, but like we're expecting the Red Sox to get to Duffy. So I think Bobby Dahlbeck is someone you can look at. And then like Hunter Dozier, I think Kansas City's a little bit interesting on the road in Fenway. Richard's not great. Red Sox bullpen shaky. So yeah, and then Jared Walsh in that same Yankees type of game. If you're okay with taking some of these Angels bats, I think Jared Walsh, and then you can maybe play Otani in the outfield and make a little 3-man stack with the Angels.
O'Hearn for Kansas City is now an outfielder, by the way. I think he's first base outfield on FanDuel. I'm not certain. By the way, you mentioned the dude there for the Mets. You're talking about Pete Alonso. Nobody's playing him on DK. They're playing him on FanDuel. He's like too expensive on DK and too cheap on FanDuel. And you talk about Espino, the righty, just worth noting, Jeffrey Rodriguez expected to relieve him as the possible long man. He's also a righty, but he's been bad versus both historically. So I like the over in that game, 9.5. I'm not in the state where I can wager on such things legally, but if I was, I would take the over on Washington and New York. I like that as a good pivot away from Houston. Of course, Houston's gonna be super popular. Gurriel is amongst the popular guys in Houston, probably not there with Alvarez or Correa or Tucker or Altuve, even Brantley, but Gurriel probably more of a guy you throw in your stack. Right in the heart of that lineup there against Eshelman, 16 total. Let's pivot over to second base, the hot corner, and that's like, do you have the funds for Altuve? Of course, he's a great play, but if you only have one or two big spends, is Altuve going to be one of them?
Jeff McNeil is so cheap. I think if you're playing cash games, you can just kind of go McNeil, or like Kiki Hernandez. Both those guys batting leadoff in good spots. So those guys make a lot of sense. Like Jose Altuve, Houston, I think they're the top stack on the slate. I think a lot of people will agree with that. So
yeah.
I mean, if you can get Altuve, sure. Eduardo Escobar is someone I like. I kind of like Arizona tonight, Dean. Like they're one of those like. They're that secondary stack that I feel like you can stack with Houston to make your Houston stack different. And Wade LeBlanc, don't expect him to pitch too great here or deep into the game. So you're going to get some bullpen arms for St. Louis. So I think anything can happen in those types of games. So
that's a weird game because I'm just curious. Let's hear your thought, not to cut you off, but I'm curious what your thought is in that, because Faria, we don't expect, he was once interesting for Tampa, but I don't know if he's that guy anymore. Wade LeBlanc is like 37, and he's thrown with like savvy and guile, and he might give you 3 innings or something like that. So it's two really hittable pitchers, but an Arizona lineup that's putrid, no Ketel Marte, and a St. Louis lineup that has some names, but they've been massively disappointing. And it's like bad pitchers, bad lineups. I don't know what to do with this game, but it wouldn't surprise me if we see like an 8-7 game here.
I think this is going to be one of those games that like out of nowhere just has a lot of scoring. So, I mean, I think that's what is super interesting about just this game in general. So I think the over in that game, you're going to get a lot of bullpen. And, that's not always great, but I feel like with the new rules where like pitchers have to face like 3 batters, just makes that, very interesting. And like the thing that I like about Arizona too is like you can go Walker, Escobar, Cabrera, and it's like 3-4-5 stack that nobody's playing. And again, it makes that lineup just different. I don't know. That you said Arizona lineup's out. I was hoping that like Nick Ahmed would bat like right behind Cabrera, and you could go like 4-5-6. But I like Nick Ahmed as a cheap shortstop, and we'll get there in a minute.
Rojas LeCastro is 2-6. He's got a lot of speed. LeCastro is a guy who can steal 2 or 3 bases in theory. Escobar, probably their best hitter. Walker, Cabrera. Cabrera is really cheap. Like, he might be a useful player as Dribble Cabrera at 2.5K. If you're going to go double barrel, I saw they're asking in the chat about Shebler, kind of a lefty power guy. He cracked the lineup today for the Angels. He's 2K. Fletcher, I'm just looking for potential cheapies to kind of open stuff up. Rengifo's 2K. Fletcher's 2.5. Oh, man, there's not a lot of great options. Alex in the chat. Alex does some work here for RG, really, really sharp guy, talking about, he said he's watched 3 shows today, and all 3 have touted Arizona. How about that? That's interesting. Team total less than 3.7 currently. But
dibs on first. I started talking about them last night.
That's the good thing about doing the morning grind. Like, you're the first person to get there, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, man. It's been that way for years. I love it. No, all joking aside, I do like Arizona a lot.
Let's and again, you can go double barrel. You can get a couple big bats, a couple big arms, and some Arizona. Like, if that's something you want to do, like that's interesting. All right, give me the hot corner. Give me third base, and this is my bad. I've done a poor job of steering this show. Somehow we've fallen behind on time. We want to save as much time as possible for the chat and their questions. Hopefully they're firing them off. Devin's compiling. He'll be joining the show momentarily. Let's speed things up a little bit. What do you have for me as far as third base, the hot corner?
I mean, Jose Ramirez at the top against Manning is definitely in play here. It's a really good spot for him. Anthony Rendon, like that's that Angels 3-man, right? Walsh, Rendon, and Otani. If you want to save some money, you just talked about him. Asdrubal Cabrera, like he's 2.5K against LeBlanc. And again, I like Arizona. So Eduardo Escobar, we talked about him a little bit at second base. So those guys are interesting. And then, like, if you like the Red Sox stack, Devers is probably going to be like that low-owned part of the Red Sox stack because it's lefty-lefty. But if you don't think Duffy is going to go long into that game, it really doesn't matter. So I like that spot for Devers.
He sees Duffy no more than twice, and there's a route where he only sees him once.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he doesn't
You
see
hope
him
he
more
only
than twice.
sees him once. Like, then your stack's really rolling.
Yeah. I don't know how deep Duffy's going to go. Jump over to shortstop for me.
I mean, shortstop's a position today where like we usually like to pay up at shortstop. I think if you're paying up Xander Bogaerts or Carlos Correa or the two pay up options, you can always pay up for Trey Turner. We haven't really talked about Eckhoff at all, but he's not very good. Paul DeJong is really cheap in that St. Louis, Arizona game. He's going to see a lot of bullpen, and he's batting sixth today. We mentioned Rojas already against LeBlanc. Nick Ahmed is somebody that has power against left-handed pitching. Don't hate him. Baez is okay. If you really want to chase upside, Brandon Crawford's been knocking the cover off the ball, and always has upside. So, and he's going to be like 1% owned on the slate. So I like him a little bit more on FanDuel. I think he's like 2.6 or 2.7K on FanDuel, Brandon Crawford. And if you're just chasing home runs as like a one-off, Brandon Crawford's always that guy that like I'd throw in there because he's crushing the ball.
Yeah, that's one of those things where like you can play the most chalky of lineups, and if you have Crawford in there, like you said, he's gonna be less than 5% owned, maybe 5% ambitious. And if you trust it, obviously he's got to do something. He's got to be the difference maker. But if he has a big game and the chalk goes off, like nobody's beating you, right? Yeah. Let's see. DeJong at the 6 spot, which you've seen him buried in the 8 and the 7. He's moved his way up to the 6 spot. And he's cheap enough. I think he's kind of sort of somewhat interesting as a salary saver. I'm trying to, if I'm pinched for pennies because I really want to spend on some stuff in the outfield. Yeah, I might get there. Correa, love the play, but I just don't know if I can pay that off unless I'm stacking Houston. Let's jump to the outfield. We'll knock out some stacks. We'll bring Devin on. It's going to be a good time. Your favorite outfielders. We talked about Otani. You can play him in the outfield on FanDuel and on DK as well. Of course, first base on DK as well. Is it Yordan? Is that what we're starting with? Yordan Alvarez is
all the Houston outfielders. That's where you can start. Like you got Brantley, Tucker, Alvarez. All those guys are fantastic. Tucker has that really good price on DraftKings. Brantley has a good price on DraftKings. So, I mean, to get to questions, right? The Yankees outfielders, the Astros outfielders, the Red Sox outfielders, like they're all in really good spots. For some savings, I like Baду. For Detroit, he's really cheap. Ryan O'Hearn is really cheap against Richards. So if you need to save some money, those are like my two like guys that I really like on the cheaper side of things. And then somebody asked about Scott Shebler. He is a guy with some power. When we saw him with the Reds, he's really cheap. So him and Para are like those like cheap guys that are like 2K that you can plug in the outfield and take shots on. Daz Cameron, I think, is batting sixth today, and he is minimum salary as well. So you do have like a few min salary options that you can even play in the outfield today. So yeah,
that's Mike Cameron's kid. You're old enough to remember Mike Cameron, right?
Mike Cameron, so. Seattle,
yeah,
and
White Sox
slugger.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on, Dean. I remember him.
I don't know. I assume you're old enough to remember him. Yeah. All right.
See these gray hairs? These are gray hairs in here now, Dean.
Give me a couple of your favorite stacks. I'll bring Devin on. Knock out the questions from chat.
Houston, New York, Boston, and to get different, I really like Arizona. I really like Arizona to get different today.
I want to add Washington to that conversation. Eichhoff is not good, and in the expert
we didn't even
mention
today, Schwarber, man.
Schwarber's are red hot, and like lefties have especially destroyed Eichhoff. And in the sample, stretching back to 2019. Juan Soto is another like absolute stud that people aren't going to play today just because they're going to prioritize Houston over him. They're going to prioritize Otani over him, I think. Bell is another solid play. We talked about that weather there. Washington's my favorite. I don't even know if we call him sneaky or off the board, however you want to call it. And I would also give a head nod to the Dodgers, specifically Bellinger 3.9 on DK. I'm not sure if you said that in your rundown, but 3.9 for Cody Bellinger, rounding back in the form. I think he's kind of sort of somewhat interesting. All right, I teased it enough. Devin, show your face to the people. Show them you exist.
Here we are. It's happened. I forgot that Shebler was on the Reds. I thought he was on the Cubs for some reason.
Well, no, he's been on the Reds. I think he's been on the Cubs. Now he's in the Angels.
Okay, there we go. That's why. And I was actually looking. You were talking about the Nationals. They are the top most projected by ceiling raw points by the bat.
And are they not gonna be owned?
I don't know. That's a good question. We'll have to see here. But we got plenty of questions here. We can go ahead and jump into those.
Hey, Devin, I meant that we talked about this pre-show. We're doing a show on Thursday, right? We should probably tell the people about it.
Yeah,
like a special...
Thursday night, little live betting show. It'll be you, Grant, SBK. Should be some fun times. We'll do a little bankroll challenge.
Yeah, well, it'll be like laid back, and we'll hang out. And I'm sure I don't know how many people are going to show up and watch, but we'll answer all sorts of we'll answer all the questions.
Yeah, all the questions. We'll have so much time.
Yeah, I can spend 30 minutes on the pizza toppings or something like that. Whatever. We'll talk sports as well too, of course. Plenty of sports. We'll be sweating the games, and Grant absolutely crushes with his bets. And if you guys have the scores and odds package, you all know how good he's been doing on that. Stevie, I know you've been partaking in that as well with your NASCAR stuff. I believe you have it in there. Yes, confirmed, denied.
Yeah, really good weekend if you followed.
There you go. So Thursday night.
When doesn't it, right? When doesn't the NASCAR package crush?
Listen, I was trying to be humble, Devin. Jeez.
That would have been awkward if we said, no, it's a terrible package, and I'm giving you guys all losers.
I mean, it was like a 9-unit weekend if you followed Scores and Odds NASCAR's picks this weekend.
All right.
I got the race winner and nailed my 2-unit bet. It was a good weekend.
All right.
Devin,
well, let's get
to get the plug out there, but yeah,
we'll go ahead and get to some questions. We'll plug it again as we go through the week. Got just a couple of stacks that you guys didn't touch on. 1 through 5. Give me your response to the stack, Dean. Detroit.
Ooh, I mean, it's the old leverage stack, right?
I'll give you 2 guesses who asked that one.
It's not nuts though. This one actually makes it seems like I'll give it a 2.5. I'll give it a 2.5. I get it.
Stevie.
I like a 3-man stack for Detroit. So like if you're asking for like a secondary stack, I would do like a 4 or 5. They have a 4.25 implied team total. They're facing a pitcher that's going to be really high owned. So I really like the secondary stack for Detroit.
Nice. Stevie, if you can rank your interest in Detroit, the Detroit stack, and 1 through 5, 5 being you're extremely interested, 1 meaning you're not interested at all, where would you rank it?
I just said I would give it a 4.
Oh,
I think
I said I would want it more as a secondary stack, but I said because of like ownership and leverage, I would rank it a 4.
I think you said 3-man and it threw him off. I think.
Yeah, I know. I was giving the long version of the question for the people, Dean. Gosh,
we're in lightning round. Don't you realize that?
Dean, your answer was just as long.
I know.
And now you've made it even longer.
Milwaukee, gosh. Dean, Brewers.
Time management issues.
Dean, Brewers.
No. 1.
Stevie.
Don't play them tonight.
Don't play the Brewers. All right, let's get to some questions. We'll do lightning round. Just we'll bounce back between the two of you. Is Duffy on a pitch count? Did we talk about that last 2 outings, 1 and 2 innings?
Nothing official that we're aware of, but we can't imagine him going beyond like 4 innings or so, or like 55 pitches, maybe 60. We're not playing him.
All right. Disco Stew. Stevie, you said only SP under 8K that can put up 30 points as upside. So probably yes.
I think so, yeah. I do think he's interesting for large field tournaments.
Stan's asking for a DK tournament Peralta with Bauer and a Detroit stack. Dean, you like it?
Peralta with Bauer. Yeah, I like that. Sure.
So that's your standard double barrel pitcher.
yeah. I don't know if I'd go full 5 in Detroit, but yeah, I like that for sure. I'm into it.
And we touched a little bit on Greinke. Stevie, do you want to give a quick 5-10 second plug on that?
He's a solid pitcher. He's just too expensive.
All right. And Tony was asking for some ump information. I'll put that up on the screen while we get to the next one. Eric wanted to know if we could talk him off of Bundy.
I think you could play him on FanDuel. Like, I think he's kind of sort of somewhat playable. He's got his home run issues and the Ks are down. But, like, theoretically, this is the kind of lineup, a bunch of righties that he can get a boost back in his strikeouts. And the Yankees, we know the story. There's power there, but they also can strike out plenty. So I don't like the price on DK, and I think the price on FanDuel is you can make work.
And as you can see, Tony, some meh umps today. Let's see. Eric wants to know, are we worried about sticky stuff for Bauer? Stevie, do you have any takes on that?
I mean, he's very, very vocal about it. He has been. So obviously it's something that you worry about, but I mean, he's still a very good pitcher. Sure. So it's not like I'm not playing him because of that. I'm not playing him because he's not facing a very high strikeout team and he might struggle a little bit.
This one comes from Alex Santi, friend of the show. Stacking Houston, San Fran, Posey or Gurriel as last men, or one-off Sal Pal.
Does that mean he's playing on FanDuel?
I believe so.
I assume that's what it means, right? Oof. Who was the one-off?
Sal Perez.
Oh, I going double catcher is really sneaky. That's one way to definitely be different away from like Chalk Houston is playing 2 catchers along with it. I like it. I mean, personally, I don't want to pitch. Well, yeah. Well, I'll yield to Stevie in this one. I'll yield to Stevie in this one.
What was the question again? No, it was just like just real quick.
Stacking Houston and San Fran. Posey, Gurriel, or Sal Perez?
Posey.
All right. And Dean, I'm surprised you haven't made this joke yet. Wade LeBlanc, Joey Tribbiani's brother. Have you not done this one yet?
I'm not a Friends guy. I get the reference, but
what?
Yeah,
crazy.
I didn't love it's fine. And like I remember my roommate, like she would just kind of laugh at every single part, like the laugh track tells you to laugh.
Great show.
And our neighbor friend, she would always come over and they would both just sit there and cackle at the exact moment they tell you when to laugh, and that left like a negative connotation in my brain.
Anybody that's seen a comedy before is going to do that to you. But pitch count. Do we have any pitch count on LeBlanc? I think Stevie, you mentioned
I don't think it's
not
I don't think he's going to pitch.
Can't pitch him.
All right, and this
Hector Santiago is the answer to the trivia question, by the way.
Well, that's funny you asked that because I was about to ask you a trivia question from somebody in chat. Derek asks, what's the 4th and 5th oldest baseball stadiums? And I'm pretty sure that wasn't the answer.
Well, it's not. Chicago and Boston is 1, 2. I think Kansas City is 3. Do they have the answer?
They didn't put the answer. So we'll see if Derek, you can hop in chat here. But yeah, we're at the end of the show here, unfortunately. So Dean, you want to go ahead and take us home?
Now I'm thinking of the answer to the trivia question. Do you have the answer, Stevie? Kansas City, right?
I'm trying to think too.
I think it's Kansas City.
I can't remember. White Sox.
Oh, maybe Anaheim? Maybe the Angels Stadium.
Maybe
done some
LA.
Oakland.
Oakland.
Angels, and Kansas City is 3, 4, 5. That's.
But we know 1 and 2. Maybe the Dodgers though. The Dodgers Stadium.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Right.
I think it's LA. I think
Dodgers 3rd, Angels 4th.
Boom.
Yeah. And what was 5th? Did they say 5th?
Not yet. He's probably throwing it in the chat here.
All right. Can we just debate this or go all the way up to 32?
Let's just cancel the rest of it. You know, just push Slate back. It's fine. Oakland was the 5th one. There you go.
All right. We're on it. We're on the crab. Thanks for watching. Hit the like button on your way out. Do subscribe. Turn on notifications. Appreciate y'all participating. Thursday night, we're going to be talking some, you guys will hear about us. We'll talk about it. But we'll be watching the games, sweating the games you guys live. Grant and the SBK will be giving you guys some winners if you guys are in the right states to do so. That was Stevie. Check out the podcast Monday through Friday for Stevie, The Morning Grind. Get his NASCAR content as well. Devin, thank you for producing the show. Much appreciated. This was Baseball. I was Dean. We're out of here. Power!